All right, let's go to Iceland, shall we?
Yeah.
Why not?
An Icelander says that Donald Trump's son trashed his apartment. I'm going to read this like it's a delightful story. In 2014, August of that year, which I'm sure was beautiful, Eric Trump took a vacation to Iceland. And according to a man named Ragnar Þór Jónsson, was an attempt to be culturally sensitive. He says, "It sucks to hear a hypocrite give a speech on Christian values. I later heard that they invited 15 Icelandic girls to go out with them, Eric Trump and friends, for dinner and drinks at a restaurant and paid each one 15,000 Icelandic krónur, which is about $120 just for joining them. Those that were most fun, whatever that means, would get to go on a glacier trip. Then I met him partying downtown that night and mentioned that he had been on the news in Iceland. Then he becomes ice cold and orders all his team to go to the apartment right away, that they had to return to the States right away. The reason was that then fiance, now wife, had no knowledge of his bachelor's trip to Iceland. Within an hour from hearing that they were on the news in Iceland, they had left on their father's private jet from Reykjavik airport."
So I love the story for a couple of reasons. One, you know, obviously I don't know, and I'm not interested in Eric Trump's marriage, whatever. But he does seem like the kind of guy who would take 15 of his buddies and pay 15 Icelandic girls $120 to come out with him at night. And then the good ones get to go.
The most fun.
The most fun get to go on the glacier trip. But
It's a great story, but I have to say it's just a story. I have no idea who this Ragnar guy is, and look, it's really, really fun to make fun of the Trumps, I admit it, but I just want to play devil's advocate here and question the veracity of the story. We don't have any photographs, we don't have any comments from Eric at all. There's no evidence to support this story at the moment. So, and the timing of it really is really questionable as well. This happened in 2014 and it's just coming out now. It's getting a lot of press. So this might be politically motivated. I'm not saying Eric Trump didn't do this, but there isn't very much evidence that he actually did.
Anybody who has a good Trump story, and I think quite a few people at this point in the world have a good Trump story, now's the time.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, it's just like this guy's probably told the story a lot. I imagine that's how the magazine or the paper.
He's dined out on it for years.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a. I don't know if it's a reputable Icelandic publication.
The Icelandic Review?
I'm going to guess that there aren't a lot of disreputable Icelandic publications, that they probably have some standards there. But of course, the best part of the story is still yet to come as to how Eric Trump and the boys left the apartment and why I believe the story, because this guy doesn't make a fuss about that part of it.
Wow. The state that apartment was in, according to the graphic. There was some white powder all around the apartment, cocaine. Someone had ed, the bathtub, broken the dining table. By the way, I don't know if that's puked or pooped the bathtub.
I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah, we don't have enough dots.
Oh, you're right.
And broken.
I assumed it was peed.
I thought it was peed, but you're right. 2 dots isn't enough.
Yeah, 2 dots.
So much. Broken the dining table.
Or too many.
And leaving the whole place in shambles. They did leave a lot of booze, which was rather popular with me.
That's why Ragnar Þór Jónsson is telling the truth. Right? No, but I'm telling you, there's a little moment there where you're like, he's like, they left booze. And he's like, and I didn't make a fuss. I just fixed it. It's not that. I cleaned it. I called a crew in.
There is an upside to the story. He didn't completely make him a monster.
Right, totally. That's right.
Okay, sure. But even if it's true, how does this come to bear on Trump's candidacy, right?
Not at all.
His son is an adult. He gets to make his own choices. Sure, it might comment on Trump's values or morals, but how does it bear on Donald Trump's candidacy for president of the United States?
Because you never hear these stories about Chelsea.
I think I think this spreading stories like this is a huge mistake.
Ridiculous.
When I hear a story like this, I don't think to myself, Eric Trump's the worst. I think Eric Trump is awesome. I want to have that stuff. And this is the problem.
You would go to that dinner. You would so go to that dinner.
I would be there. I was in a frat. Man, that sounds great. Here's the problem with the mindset of a lot of people who are going after the Trumps in this fashion. Gavin Newsom is one of them. There's a video that he's sharing on Facebook saying, like, take a look at this. And it's the video about the guy who designed the clubhouse for Donald Trump. And in the end, you see this very meek businessman who's like, Donald Trump showed up in a room with me and demanded I pay a third of what what I was owed. And I had to say yes. And then you see all those people say, you know, isn't that mean? Isn't that terrible of Donald Trump? Well, if I hear that from someone who thinks that liberals are little whiny farts who don't know anything about business, I go, wow, Donald Trump is an amazing businessman. If he can get that price agreed to, go for it. I think that this kind of story is an attempt is it just an ill-advised attempt? It makes the Trumps sound freaking awesome. And if you're going to go after them, make them sound like criminals. Show when they were criminals. Show them like when Donald Trump makes a mistake, he can declare bankruptcy and get out of it. But if he's in charge of the economy, when he makes a crazy statement, it won't just have a bunch of people in the media talk about it. It can ruin the economy with the uncertainty it creates. And
it can start a war.
It can start a war, but also like he can't just declare bankruptcy on America and then get some kind of loophole to get out of paying our scheduled payments. It can ruin our credit rating and it can ruin the world economy. That's what they need to be hitting him on, not shit like he threw a party and left me booze.
I tell you why I disagree. Well, first of all, there is no real value in the story other than I thought it was fun.
I would never have heard it had I not heard it here. You know?
And Eric Trump seems like a jackbag. But I don't know. Maybe he's awesome. First of all, Trump has changed the rules, and the media and the Democratic Party and other Republicans didn't know how to deal with it. Right? This is a guy who lies on a consistent basis, lies when he walks into the room, tells lies there, denies the truth, denies science, denies facts. And it's just a giant, there's an unquestionable, I'm not a psychologist, but there's a significant narcissistic quality to him and massive self-absorption. So his rules are different. He said Ted Cruz's wife was ugly and that his father killed the president. So I get to tell a story about his ne'er-do-well son. Like, to some extent, I think, okay, well, this is how you play with the Trumps. Now, regarding the
but is it effective?
Before you move on,
Yes, sure.
my argument is this is not the story. There are plenty of stories you can tell, but the stories that have been chosen along the way are just, you're such a fucking nerd. Stop being such a fucking weak nerd.
Well, to some extent, I agree with you on this story because there is a fun aspect to it, except for the fact that they either urinated or threw up in the bathtub.
The public has a right to know.
No, yeah,
You guys are forgetting about the fiancé.
I don't care.
Yeah.
But
That's the thing, is like, that's what they could technically kind of be hitting him on.
Yeah, I mean,
But
you know,
they're not.
I don't remember a bunch of Christian values talk
a
from
bachelor
Eric Trump
party,
at
you
the.
know.
I don't know which one Eric Trump is. There were 9 Trumps.
The one with the hair.
Oh, right.
He's not. I know Donald Jr. is the one with the little mouth.
But regarding the non-payment of real people, I don't know Gavin Newsom's video or how substantive it is, but to me, again, a guy sort of championing how he's going to speak to the middle class and the working class, who has regularly stiffed what we're led to believe, the middle class and the working class. That's a story I would never, ever, ever let go of. And Hillary mentioned it last night in her speech, and I thought I was really pleased. I tweeted a few days earlier that I don't think we should let go of where that stuff is made. I mean, there wouldn't be one voter who didn't know in November that those ties are made in China.
Yeah.
Right.
And that they could have been made somewhere else in the United States. So to me, but that might have worked to your point of, hey, he's a good businessman. It's cheaper to make him in China, so he made him in China.
But the way you tell that story, like that shows him as being a good negotiator. What he's telling these people is, I'm going to pay you a third of what I agreed to pay you, and if you don't like it, I'm going to drag you to court with my army of lawyers, and you're never going to get your money anyway because, you're a plumber, and I'm a guy with an army of lawyers. That's shitty, and that's not something I think that bodes well for him as you said, a champion of the working people, as somebody who is supposed to improve the economy and be a friend to the working class.
I think how you put it is better than it comes off in the video. And my criticisms are specifically how you deliver that message and what you choose to focus on. And they're just focusing on the worst stuff because it's this echo chamber, and both sides do this. But whoever is able to step outside the echo chamber and talk to that person who has to deal with money on a daily basis.
You have to make him Mr. Potter and not George Bailey.
Yeah, exactly. You have to make him the person who still owes this person money, who made a promise and didn't follow through on it, as opposed to the person who was able to get away with paying a third of what he owed because he was smart.
You're right and of course Trump is the person who can step out. He's winning because he steps out of it so effectively. He doesn't sound never sounds whiny, right? Even when he's literally whining about something, he manages not to sound whiny. So you've got to, that's why Hillary Clinton is theoretically, and I was pleased with that speech last night, but theoretically the worst possible candidate to deal with him, because she reeks constantly of, I am a politician and I know one way to deliver these lines and I know one way to sound, and he sounds nothing like that and has this faux appearance of authenticity, which has clearly worked on tens of millions of Americans.
It's just, there is a way to combat Trump.
Yeah, there is.
And it is the president's way of combating Trump. It puts together the way he does it. He's not for you. He wants to rule you. Period.
Yeah,
and that's not okay.
That was a good line.
Coupled with the Reaganing of him, the Morning in America. You're telling me, Jimmy Carter / Donald Trump, you're telling me that we need to change America because it sucks now? I don't think it sucks now. This is a great country. And Axelrod was talking about it on CNN, whatever for Axelrod, but he was saying the one thing that the president is really good at is reminding you what the country's about.
This is a country where you can get 15 of your friends and fly to Iceland
and pee in a bathtub.
Pee in a bathtub,
or something else.
And then just leave on their dad's plane.
Maybe that's like they peed, they puked, and they pooped, and that's how you write that.
Okay.
Is ... because just fill in whatever.
Tons.